we have mics like this.
Mic check. What check?
You okay with that seat too?
Yes, I like it.
You just had to
I'll
test
try
it out
not
a
to
little
man
bit.
spread too hard, but sit like a lady.
Pamela, I was telling you this before in the green room. I love your show so much. I think it's the best show on television. I think it is reflective of how people generally live their lives, and you don't have to be a single mother living in LA who's also a voiceover artist, but it reflects each of the moments of horror and beauty and chaos that all of us live on a daily basis, and it sort of puts them in a blender into one episode, and I love how you do it. Thank you for making this show.
Thank you so much. Has anybody in here actually seen my show? Yes! Okay. 7. I love you. 8.
I'm curious what you for the most part, you and Louis write most of the episodes, right? Yeah. You've had a couple, I think, according to IMDb, you've had a couple other writers, right?
Yeah, well, last season I thought I would have to, maybe hire other people, do it more traditionally, and, it ended up just being Louis and I. We have a similar voice and a similar sensibility. We've been working together for over 10 years. So this year we just started writing the season last October, almost a year ago. And we just, it's easier for us. I mean, our writer's room is 2. There's 2 of us. And, you look at the other shows and it's like they're monsters. They have like 20 people in the writer's rooms, and it's, and I sit there and I go, would that be nice? Like, we don't have to think about it, so we could actually put it to the side and let somebody else take over. But the reality is, I'm such a Jewish mother that I would be like, okay, now Pete has to do something. Now he has to do something. Now I would try to get everybody in there and we'd be fucked. I couldn't do it. No.
It would never be like quality over it. It would always
yeah.
just
I would be like, everybody gets a turn. It's a mess.
What is your process with Louis in terms of devising the arc of the whole season? Because what I love about the show in many ways is that a lot of times it feels like controlled chaos, but then all of a sudden storylines, as you move throughout a season, storylines do creep back in and they start weaving through each episode in minor ways, or sometimes an entire episode is a storyline. How do you guys sort of beat that out?
In the first season, it was, of course, more expositional because we were learning about these people and finding out about the characters. And this year, I just was reflecting on people that inspired me, and then things that, if you have somebody in your life who's still in your life that wouldn't necessarily be in your life, it's like you have friends who get divorced. The other person is still around somehow because your lives connect. They have kids or whatever. You don't want them. They were a dick to your friend for a long time, but they're not married anymore, so your kids still hang out. You know what I mean? So that's interesting to me. Instead of demonizing somebody who does one messed up thing, how can we explore that? And then talking about, arcs of stories. Like we did an arc this season, and it was really fun and fulfilling. And then I kind of ended up mixing things around and putting different things in different episodes.
Sorry, let me just stop you there.
Please stop me.
So you have lots of stuff, like lots of storylines that you've shot, and sometimes you don't know which episode they're gonna fall in, and then you figure it out in the editing room,
it wasn't on purpose, but what happened is there was a sequence that wasn't working. Like we shot a sequence this year. I had a lot of material, and which is like a good thing. But last year I had a whole wonderful scene that I didn't use in the entire season. It just didn't fit. Sometimes you shoot something and it doesn't fit. I shot the whole season. It was 10 episodes in 40 days. We cross-boarded. It was all on location. And so sometimes we would shoot pieces from 4 or 5 episodes in a day. We'd shoot 10 pages a day. And so it was like trying to keep my head straight. Thank God I got everything that I needed. But it just ended up, sometimes you have to kill your darlings and certain things have to come out because there's a lot of material. I like to have air in my show. I like things to breathe. I like things to linger. And so sometimes you've got to make sacrifices.
You're also not big, excuse me. You're also
Falafel.
Yeah, she is right. I ate a massive falafel sandwich just before I was eating it coming down the stairs. Really professional. I think back to the finale of last season, Only Women Bleed, a really beautiful episode. But what is so powerful about that episode is that you never exploit what could be powerful about it. It still feels very subtle. It still feels like a very contained world where, Frankie's going through something, you're realizing something about Frankie, but at the same time, it's never played to high drama. It's never played for tears. Right. When did you establish that that was the tone that you wanted to take with the show, or in the tone that you wanted to take with big issues like that? Most shows would be like, I've got a big issue here. Let's go after it.
Well, I've been waiting my whole life to tell stories like this. I've been acting in other people's things. And, I've always wished that it could be more subtle and nuanced. I live my life in a reflective way, and I observe and I take things in, and that's the way I made my show. I wanted my show to be the way I see my life.
Is it easy? Is it easy for you to sort of hold on to that aesthetic, because we're inundated with the way that Hollywood tells our stories all the time, and what a TV show needs to do, what a movie needs to do? Do you find yourself in the writer's room sometimes having to be like, no, this doesn't need to go to this place. It could just rest here.
That's why I don't have a writer's room.
There you go. Yes.
That's why it's just.
No one telling you like, no, that's not what a story does on TV. Like, yeah.
That's right. And I work, my show's on FX, and so FX is so completely hands off. They just let people, everybody's using this word auteur now. It's auteur television. People who are handcrafting and making their own things. They are cultivating artists, and they're letting us tell our stories without demanding anything. So at the end of the day, I show them my scripts. Maybe they'll give me a note here or there. They never demand action or something taken out or put in. And then when I deliver my cuts, when I'm editing it, they'll make a couple of suggestions, and they never demand it. So at the end, it's what I want, and it's how I want to feel. It gives me all the feelings. I cry in the editing room. It's kind of the most intimate, private, personal space being in there, because you just get through all these layers and you get all these feelings, and it's an amazing experience.
I don't want to give anything away about the new season at all, but you dedicated Only Women Bleed to your daughters. And based off of an episode that I just watched from the new season, I'm wondering how they took that dedication, and if they took it to heart as much as you meant it.
I don't think they gave two shits about it. Honestly, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to show this to my daughters. It's handwritten. It's my writing and everything. And I was like, see what did you see? At the end, I wrote dedicate. Yeah, it's nice, Mom. My youngest said that. But honestly, it's like, I thought they would be like, oh my God, Mom, that's like so amazing. No, the whole world liked it, but my daughters were like, meh.
But they're proud, right?
Yes. Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
They're, the things that like are the most meaningful to me they're going to take in a different way, which is very much the way my show is. You know what I mean? Stuff that is so meaningful and powerful to you is not going to be the same to other people. So it's a totally different dynamic. And, motherhood and parenthood is about constantly being disappointed, because you have to get rid of all of your expectations,
When did you realize that as a mother?
I'm still trying to learn it. haven't quite gotten there yet. I'm trying, but it's hard. You just have this thing. You have this standard. I was born in the '60s, so my parents were very. They come. My mother's English, and my father was very strict, and so I came from a conservative family. And so. There's just certain ways that things are done. And now my daughters have sleepovers with boys, and it's like, I'm like, what the fuck? It's a different way of living.
The first episode of the of season 2 has Max in a relationship, right, with an older man.
Yeah.
And the way Sam handles the situation is fucking perfect. It's beautiful the way that she handles the situation. I don't know if this happened to you in your real life, but was this a sense of like a sort of a wish fulfillment of motherhood, where it's like, I hope I handle it this way if it happens, or did you handle it that way?
It's a scripted story, but I mean, I have had to handle many situations in my life that I'm catching up to. It's like. You see Sam and you think she's like this very hip, cool lady. She's still catching up to all this stuff that's going on around her. So it's like, at the end of the day, if my daughters call me and say, Mom, can so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so come over tonight? And I'm like, no, please. Mom, I have to study, whatever. It's just like I always have at least 8 to 10 teenagers in my house because my kids want to be home and their friends come over. But when it comes to like unsavory types that your daughters date, I'm stuck for words. It's just, you just got to suck it up.
Well, she does such an amazing job, and it's that thing that I think if you want to be a good parent and you're thinking about parenthood, it's like, oh, that's how I want to handle it, which is allowing her, sort of expecting her to understand the mistake that she's making at some point, rather than telling her about the mistake consistently or pulling her out of it, and then working the situation, doing what a mother needs to do in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, essentially she says, if I want my daughter to be in my house, I have to have him here. And she's dealing with it, and her daughter's being a little asshole to her, and she's just like, okay, fine. And then finally, she hates the fact that she can't get out of it, and she's got to come to her mom. And so it was important to me. We have this scene where my daughter takes me to the laundry room of the house and says, I can't handle it. He's taking me to parties with 40-year-olds, and I'm in over my head. And I'm like, oh, but you love it, And she's like, no, I need to get out of it. And then she goes, I really like Arturo, with that like little bitchy face. Like, I like him, but it's too much for me. So it's layers. Like, I wanted her to be proud, like to show like she doesn't regret it, but now she wants me to get her the fuck out, Yeah,
she wants you to be the parent now.
Now
she's ready for the parent to step in.
That's right.
Which is such an interesting dynamic as a parent, to be like, eventually, the sort of hope that eventually the parent will need to step in here.
That's
I
right.
trust that she'll need me eventually.
You hope that your kids want your help, and that they would be brave enough or open enough to say to you, help me out here, and please don't make a judgment.
Is there an element ever of wish fulfillment for you when you're writing the show? Like, do you ever pull up scenes where you're like, I wish I had handled this way, so I'm going to do it in the show?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the great part about having my show. It's like I get to live out scenarios and play out things that I couldn't have done in real life, or I wish I had done, or I wish hadn't happened.
Like what? Can I have an example?
Oh, just, I don't know, because pretty much everything in the 2 seasons has happened to me.
When you get into, let's go back to the writer's room for a minute. When you write the show, let's not call it a room anymore. When you get back to writing the show, do you have notes, like copious notes of your life that you've been taking over the last year? And you're like, these are some things that I think I want to talk about, or some things that happened to me. How can we work this in?
Yeah, what I do is I take notes all the time, and I have journals everywhere. And so
You've always done that, or since the show started?
Always, my whole life. I've kept a journal since I'm 9 years old.
Women are so good at that. I know that sounds ridiculous, but every
Really?
woman in my life has been like, oh, I have to write in my journal now.
Yeah.
I've been like, oh, you just want to get away from me? No.
We love to journal. It's the lady thing. I don't think it's. I have guy friends who keep journals, but for me, it's about lists, and it's like, I don't want to forget. If I don't put it down, it's gone. So I used to. There was a time in my life where I would go, oh God, that's the best idea. Like what? Like I mean, I went through a pot smoking phase in my youth, and I would have the best ideas in the world. They're all gone now because I didn't write them down.
Or for the better. We don't know.
Or for the better. It's true. But what I do is I keep notes. Like in my phone, like in my drafts folder, I'll just write idea or show or writing, something like that. And then I just put it down, or you put it in your notes folder or something. And then, like every couple of months, I'll cut and paste it into a document, and then I have all this material. I sift through it. It's amazing. The way we wrote the show this season is we would talk out these ideas and go on these threads, and then transcribe it. And then we had reams of pages, and it was like so good. And things that we thought were just gold, we were like, I'm not feeling that. And then other things, we were like, this thing I'm reacting to. When we're writing, we realize that anytime we're talking about something that makes either one of us feel uncomfortable, we know we're onto something good, and we have to explore that.
Can I ask, can you give me an example of that? I know it's hard to give examples because maybe that's everything.
I mean, there's stuff in this season that's a lot of that, stuff with, I didn't want to do a scene last season with the girl's father character. It made me really uncomfortable. Like I was like, this is a place I don't want to go.
Because it feels too close to your your actual life?
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable even talking about it now.
We're on to something.
I know.
Have to be here.
But, and then adding the music and everything, and just the way this scene is done, it's just phenomenal to watch it, because it's like, oh my God, that's the feeling. Doing the scene with the kid who wants to whip his dick out and show me his boner, who plays my son in the pilot. I'm like, it's a thing that's uncomfortable, but when you're shooting it, you're like, you just got to go for it. Yeah. So I'm not uncomfortable shooting it. I got to make the kid feel better. It's fine. Don't really pull it out.
I think in this season, again, without giving anything away, we see a different side of Sam in regards to her expectations of men and what she can handle when it comes to men. What made you want to explore that? And what do you think about Sam in regards to what she can handle and expects from men? They seem to be almost two different things.
Yeah, they
don't align.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I feel like, tonight's episode it speaks to that quite a bit. It's like, it's something that I've seen men go through. You don't really get to see a woman decide she doesn't want to pursue a relationship so much anymore, just because, what I mean?
Usually you see that from the man's eyes in the scene, that it's like, oh, she's a bitch, she's bright, she's dumping this guy, and it's like,
that's
not
right.
necessarily the case.
Yeah, it's like the guy who's like, oh, ding, the expiration date just went off, and on to the next one. But I don't know, I kind of I've always felt like more like a male, masculine, I don't know what I'm allowed to say anymore, mentality for myself. So, that's just the way that's what I put into Sam.
Alpha? Could we say alpha? Do you feel
No, I mean,
alpha?
because I don't think alpha has a gender.
Yeah, that's why I was going for alpha.
Yeah, but I've just I feel more of a masculine, like a male mentality. you know.
Approach to dating and relationships
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
even though I like the D. So I'm like a gay man. That's what I am. That's what I identify. That's how I.
It's an interesting thing when a woman fronts a show like this, directs the show, writes the show, because it becomes something that is oddly political, even if it doesn't want to be, because we're so not used to seeing women's stories this way. And I'm wondering if when you sit down to write, you think like, oh, I want to talk about this because we've never seen this from a woman's perspective, or I want to see a woman do this, or if it's all just kind of organically like that because it's from you.
That's interesting, but that's right. It is from me. This is my aesthetic. This is my life. This is the music I like. This is the art that I like. This is the way I like to dress. This is the way my kids dress. You know, this is my myopic world and vision. But when people put that, I understand that it's like a big thing for women that I'm doing and running this show. It's massive. It's massively important. But I don't want my show to be labeled as a feminist female show. It's really about people, and it's about being in a family, and it's about a village of people raising each other. You know, I mean, it's a human show. You know, so I just, my responsibility is to telling real, authentic stories.
When you first started talking to Louis about doing the show, did he approach you and say, I think you should do a show? Think about it and let's do it.
Yeah, he had John Landgraf, who's the president of FX, had said that he wanted to do a show from a female point of view. And Louis pitched me to him, and he told me, and I was like, are you fucking crazy? I was terrified. I was doing Louis. I was on Louis, writing and producing it, and doing Californication at that time. And I was doing all my animation stuff and raising my daughters. So I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And then it was just kind of sitting there. It was like an idea that was like on my desk. Like, okay, are you ready to do it now? And then I would take jobs and, act and stuff. And I would be like, oh God, this is such a piece of shit. I can't believe how much money and time these people are wasting. I could do this. I could do this. I could do a show. And so then it came crunch time to sit down, write it, make the pilot, make the show. And I've said before, and I really believe it, that if I had done my show a year before, it wouldn't have happened. If I had waited a year, it wouldn't have happened. This was the exact right time for me to do my show.
And were you ready to write and sort of star in and direct your own show when you did it?
No, I didn't.
Kind of the best part?
Yeah, it is. Like, at first, I was looking for a director and a showrunner, and by the end of my first season, I had become my own director and showrunner.
What kind of meetings did you have with other directors and showrunners? Did you have any? And
I had them at a deli.
Did they get in a room with you and you're like, well, maybe she's into this and not that? And you're like, fuck you, it's my life. She's not.
No, it was more like, I do my bonding thing. Like, oh my God, tell me, oh, your son is hearing impaired. Oh my God. So then we'd talk about that for 3 hours or whatever. And I just would, not want to offend them and say, well, don't tell them that I'm not going to use them or what. And it became like about that. I ended up, no, it's just, I like people to feel comfortable. My set is a very inclusive set. If anybody has an issue or a problem, like, I would want to take care of people, but at the end of the day, it just became the natural next step for me to take over my show.
Let's get some questions from the audience right here.
Hi. Since you're writing and acting and starring in the show, do you enjoy one over the other? Do you look forward to performing what you wrote, or do you just like to see, like, maybe the final product at the end?
I think, thank you for your question. I feel that I would like to not be in anything anymore. Like, I love producing it. I love editing it. I love directing it. I just feel like, I mean, I want to see other people. Like I like to give other people a platform. I mean, I've been acting, almost my whole life. So I love doing these other things. These other things are the things I'm getting off on more than my own face doing.
How do you handle
Talking things.
how do you handle editing your own face? Are you good at it, or
You have to just separate. You know what I mean? It's just a lady. Like I have to look at playback when we're shooting, and I'm like, oh fuck, look at my neck. Okay, it's not me. It's just a lady. There's a lady in the show. That's all I do. So you kind of, you move through and you get over that. I can't get caught up in, what my face is doing or how, you know what I mean? You just keep it at the same level because, I love my actors and they bring so much with them. So it's like, I know as an actor what it's like for me to go into a studio and, give a read of a line and somebody's so married to an idea that you're in multiple takes, you're in 10 takes, 20 takes, and it's boring. You know what I mean? Let the actors bring to you what they will. The only thing is, for me, I like to, I like to keep it small. I like to keep the performances small and subtle. That's everything to me. And then my actors are like, like Diedrich Bader's in my show, and he's done these big, giant, fabulous characters over the years, and he's like, so, nothing? You want me to do nothing? I'm like, totally, nothing.
Right.
But it's interesting because, like, that's a revelation to so many people because we're not going big and broad. We're going small. We're keeping it
What
small.
about the actresses that play your daughters? It's incredible young actresses.
Yeah, they've grown so much, and it's like they took the tools that they got from year one and came back in year two, and they're learning and growing so much. But on a day I'll be like, okay, this one's flatlining, get some food in it, feed it, give it a nap or something like that. But you have to know where they are developmentally, where they are professionally, and always be aware.
You relate to that in some capacity since you have been acting since you were essentially a kid, right?
That's right.
So you probably have a good handle on exactly how to handle them a little bit.
Yeah, also I'm a mom, so it goes hand in hand. And what I've told them, and they know, is I won't give up until we get the performance. And trust me. If you trust me, we'll go really far.
Next question.
Hey, Pamela.
Hi.
You played one of the greatest characters on one of the best
I'm guessing you're going to
animated
say
shows of all time, without a doubt the greatest theme song of all time.
Yeah.
At the beginning, how hard did you have to reach down deep into yourself to get in touch with your inner Bobby Hill? Because obviously he's a preteen boy and you're not.
Yeah. It wasn't hard. Huh?
Sorry, his ring? What is going on? Is that a ring?
That is a ring.
Well, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
I love you loving it.
That's a cool ring. Well, I didn't have to, I don't know if you know of my oeuvre from the 80s, but I played a lot of boys. Like, I did a lot of parts that I played, like gender-bendy parts in weird sitcoms in the 80s and movies in the 80s. So it was, that was part of me. And so when I started doing voiceover, I didn't know about being able to, that women could play boys and things like that. And so that was, certainly what sustained me for through my 20s, doing voiceover work. But yes, Bobby just lives inside me.
It's funny
Thank
when you're
you.
watching the show and sometimes Bobby like almost accidentally comes out of you. You can hear it every now and then.
It's my vocal cords, so I know. I try. Sometimes I hear it too, and I'm like, ooh, somebody's gonna say something. Sounds like Bobby.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi.
Since you did a lot of voice working in the past, being Bobby or Spinelli, what would you say to yourself if you gone back in time and tell yourself, hey, in the future we're gonna have this TV show on FX?
Oh, well, in the first place, I wouldn't believe it. I would be so thrilled because to go from like taking any job that I could get, being on unemployment, not getting hired, just going to work in a flower store, going to work in a clothing store, getting sexually harassed by the owner, being too afraid to quit, like all of the things that have happened to me in my life have led me to making my show now. But if you told me that I'd be running my own show with my face in it and directing it back when I was doing Spinelli and I was this pregnant with my first daughter, I never would have believed it.
Do your kids watch the show with you?
My youngest daughter was in the editing room with me for the first season the entire summer, and she got really into editing and everything. My two oldest, they like to watch the show as it rolls out, and we're never in the same place at the same time, so we don't watch it. But we had a premiere, and they just watched the first 2 episodes, and they were so into it and incredibly proud. And my youngest daughter was sitting next to me and my best friend, and she turned to my friend Stephanie and she said, I want to be in that family. And then she said, oh, wait, I am in that family. I know.
So cool.
I like that.
I'm going to end it there because that's really awesome.
Cool.
And beautiful. Pamela, thank you so much for being here. Better Things
Thank
on
you guys for coming.
FX.
Needed.
It's on FX Thursday nights. It is the best show on TV. Pamela Adlon, everybody. Give it up one more time. Thank you.